Making headlines tonight, Barbadians told to brace for a weather system that could produce heavy rainfall and strong winds. Government's overall repair and rebuild cost associated with Hurricane Elsa to top $100 million. The Barbados economy expected to register double-digit growth this year. And coming up in sports, the Windies arrived down under in time for tomorrow's first T20 against the Aussies.
Broadcasting from our studios in the Pine St. Michael, this is CBC NewsNight, starting now.
I'm Shane Jones, leading the news at 7. Barbadians are being warned to brace for up to 4 inches of rain and wind gusts of 55 miles per hour in some areas from a weather system being closely monitored by the Barbados Meteorological Services. The island is expected to start feeling the effects of the system from around midnight. And joining us now with more details is Director of the Barbados Meteorological Services, Sabu Best. Good evening, Sabu.
Hi, good evening, Shane.
Hi, so go ahead.
Sorry, Shane. So just to bring your viewers up to speed of what's going on, as of 5 p.m., the center is fairly broad, it's not well defined. Reconnaissance aircraft flew into the system this afternoon or so, and they really kind of find a well-defined center, which is a good thing. So the system throughout the course of today remained disorganized. A lot of deep convection was mostly displayed displaced to the east and south of the broad center. And so, like I said, throughout the course of the day, it hasn't changed much in its overall structure, and it remains really disorganized, and that's a very good thing. One thing we don't want to do is trying to get better organized to our east, and then, we get an even stronger system rolling through. Now, having said that, I know you mentioned about up to 4 inches of rain. Now, let me clarify that for the viewers. We're forecasting 2 to 3 inches of rainfall. Isolated amounts of 4 inches, meaning there's a possibility of 1 or 2 areas maybe getting 4 inches. But as it stands, that may occur south of Barbados, between Tobago and Barbados, sometime, like you said, accumulating between midnight and tomorrow afternoon. Now, here's the concern. As you would know, and your viewers and listeners would know, over the past few weeks, we've had a lot of rainfall, especially like in Holtong area and the St. Lucie last week. And so some areas are still saturated and moist. And so if we're going to get an additional 2 to 3 inches on top of that, it's going to be a lot easier to flood. Albeit, the rainfall rates that we're going to be expecting will not be as aggressive. So far we're seeing not going to be as aggressive as what happened last week. But the point is, rain falling for extended period of time, like say for 4 or 5 hours, can still cause flooding. Now, what we want is important listeners and viewers to understand the risk here. It could play out that, right now it's disorganized. It could pass through in the morning and not give us a lot of rainfall, which would be a blessing. But it can also give us that predicted accumulation of 2 to 3 inches, which could, cause flooding. So we have to be ready and understand the risk that can happen as the system passes. But we're hoping
Sabu, I know a lot of people are watching and following, and sometimes they look for updates, and they hear you saying that it's disorganized. As the night goes on, if it becomes organized, is there going to be any outlet for people to watch and say, okay, I can see this is becoming a little more organized? Will there be little notes being put out by the Met Office?
Definitely. We have another update coming at 11 p.m. And if anything changes from before that 11 p.m., we definitely will tell you. But as it stands, we don't see anything significant happening between now and 11 p.m.
Okay, so what I'm understanding is that the event itself may not be as powerful as, say, the rains we had last week, but the impact because of the previous rainfall could be just as severe or even more.
I wouldn't say even more. It would not be severe in terms of the time scale. It can happen, but at a slower pace than what happened last week. Last week, it happened within an hour.
Okay. Thank you so much for updating us, as always, Sabu. Okay, also joining us tonight is Director of the Department of Emergency Management, Kerry, Hines. Good evening, Ms. Hines. Can you tell us how the department is preparing for tomorrow morning's event?
Good evening, Barbados. The Department of Emergency Management has been closely monitoring the system, and we have been in constant we've been constantly liaising with the Barbados Met Services. As recent as this afternoon, we would have called together a number of the agencies so they could receive a briefing of the impending weather system and to ensure that persons are alert and have their various systems in place. The agencies have their various systems in place if they are called on to press into any type of action. The department, we will continue to monitor the progress, and we have a small team. We will have a small team in place tonight into the wee hours of the morning, just to answer any calls or any reports of any damage from the EOC. You can contact us at 438-7575.
Okay. Last week, when we had the other rainfall that was, we had a lot of flooding in Barbados. The department had to jump in to action in any places in Barbados?
We had a very small number of reports last week. We did have to render assistance in the St. Andrew and the St. Lucie area. Persons who required some assistance in terms of the floodwaters, and there were some families who required temporary roof covering for their homes. As I said, they were very minor. However, we were able to service the person.
Okay, thank you so much, Director Hines. Well, as Barbadians prepare to weather the latest system, government is providing another avenue to help people prepare. This was revealed by Senior Minister in the Prime Minister's office, Dr. William Duguid, in Parliament, as members of the lower house today approved several amendments to the Catastrophe Fund. According to Dr. Duguid, one of the amendments allows some homeowners to access the Catastrophe Fund before rather than after a disaster.
Those below the poverty line, we are given an opportunity for them to retrofit hurricane straps and collar ties. The hurricane strap will join the rafters of the roof to the walls of the house. In the past, the legislation did not allow this because the legislation said you could only benefit from the catastrophe fund if you were the victim of a catastrophe. We are saying, let's do that stitch in time and save 9. Give us the opportunity once this legislation is passed so that we can use the funds from the catastrophe fund not to respond only after reactive, but let us be proactive.
Minister Duguid also noted that it will cost government approximately $108 million to repair and rebuild the damage caused by Hurricane Elsa. He said another key amendment will allow state agencies like the National Housing Corporation access to money from the fund to continue the rebuilding effort, which has been hampered by limited resources. He said to date, of the 1,746 houses needing repairing or rebuilding, 73% have either started or been completed.
I think that they've done well with minimal resources. And the issue obviously has been finance. In the early response, it was all done through central government. But it comes a time that central government reaches its limit. And there are other pressures on the central government's purse. And this is now, once this legislation is passed, it gives us an opportunity to access the catastrophe fund. But that's what it's there for. The Catastrophe Fund is there to support the government and support the people of Barbados when there is a catastrophe.
Housing Minister Dwight Sutherland says government is still responsible for accommodating 107 people 1 year since the passage of Hurricane Elsa. According to him, the cost of not only housing but feeding these individuals continues to climb.
People's Empowerment has expended $930,000 so far. Their projections to the end of the year, if we keep these persons in accommodation, would be $1 million in expenditure would be required to accommodate clients until the end of this year. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Nutritional Security estimates that between July 2021 and August 2022, it would have expended approximately $673,000 on supplying food to the various communal accommodations.
Home Affairs Minister Wilfred Abrams says the amendments are an attempt to address the practical realities relating to Hurricane Elsa.
You're starting houses, everybody constructing at the same time, everybody's calling for money at the same time, and you ended up in a situation, sir, where some of the construction and repairs had to pause. So you might just see the houses chipping up initially, but then the money dried up. So you have a situation, sir, where you have half-finished houses, but we don't have the money to finish them. And we couldn't draw from the money to finish them because the clause as it stood just now required the completed house done by the agency to the satisfaction of the committee. So this now, I think, more captures what was contemplated at that time and what makes practical sense.
In more news from Parliament, a government minister wants sensible steps taken to intervene in the marketplace in the interest of Barbadian consumers, as he called out inefficiencies and inaccuracies regarding standards of measurement. Senior Minister and the Minister of Energy and Business, Kerry highlighted issues where consumers may be purchasing an item that suggests one net weight but are actually getting less. He shared some examples as he led off debate on the Barbados Metrology Bill 2022.
This kind of thing, yeah, it can happen by mistake. This kind of thing can happen by mistake. But let us try to eradicate the mistakes. And for heaven's sake, let us make sure that it does not happen by design. Because in every instance where we have a consumer buying a product at a fixed price and then getting a product that is 103 or 104 grams of difference, that consumer, sir, has been disadvantaged. The cost of living for that consumer is already high, and that consumer's out-of-pocket is significant. And that comes at a personal consequence, sir, for the consumer and the consumer's family. The consumer's disposable income is not inelastic. Otherwise put, the consumer's disposable income does not stretch forever and ever and ever.
Barbados' economy is expected to surpass the region's growth outlook this year by more than 7%. That's according to the World Bank's latest economic review for Latin America and the Caribbean. Chief Economist William Maloney presented the report during a virtual media conference this morning. He revealed the local economy is estimated to grow by 10.5% this year and 5% next year, compared to projections for the region, which stand at 3% this year and 1.6% for 2023.
The Caribbean was one of the regions that was hardest hit by COVID. GDP still hasn't recovered to its 2019 levels, and we're not expecting that to be the case until 24, and that reflects the overall slow rate of recovery of the region. Part of that, as we know, many of the islands are very tourism dependent. And we had a hard time getting a handle on COVID. And many countries of the region are still with vaccinations around or below 40%, which leaves us vulnerable to whatever new variant comes.
Coming up, interveners zero in on fuel costs as the FTC's hearing into the power company's request for a rate increase continued today. Fuel costs came under the microscope on day 10 of the Fair Trading Commission's hearings into the Barbados Light and Power Company's application for a rate increase. Intervener Stephen Worm asked the BLPC's Director of Operations, Johan Graves, if his company was doing all in its power to ensure Barbados was getting the best price for fuel.
The short answer is yes. We do run a tendering process for our fuel procurement. So typically our contracts are normally renewed every 3 years. We will normally start by preparing a tender document, a request for proposal, I should say, and that will normally be sent out via the various media channels and also posted on our website. And we have responses usually come in from both local and international vendors in response. We normally go through a process of evaluating, and then we select a successful proponent, and then we will enter into contractual negotiations and finalize it with the actual contract for each of the fuels that we use.
Meanwhile, during his cross-examination, the power company's Director of Asset Management, Rohan Seal, maintained they have adequate resources to meet the requirements for the Light and Power's target of 100% renewable energy by 2030. He told Mr. Worm, even though there has been frustration surrounding the time frame for approvals and installations, they are on track.
If we are going to go forward and be able to transition within the next 8 years, how are we going to be in a position to achieve that if already we are having challenges at this level?
Right, as I mentioned, as the renewable energy industry continues to take off, it requires the need for resourcing among a number of agencies, not just the LPC, but we will take the steps necessary in order to be adequately resourced to respond to the increasing proliferation of renewables.
Education Minister Kay McConney is responding to concerns about any significant increase in the price of healthier foods to be served to students under the new food and nutrition policy for schools. Speaking to CBC News, she explains how the ministry used the SUN program in this summer to help guide the new policy, ensuring healthy food is affordable. She gave an example for what was a new macaroni pie recipe.
But it has now less fat, it has less salt, and it has more vegetables included in that recipe. The same thing with what was the shepherd's pie. The meat, the red meat that was being used has been reduced and something else, healthier, lentils have been substituted. However, they have been mingled and put together so well that many have not even noticed the difference. And so it is possible to make healthy tasty. And when you talk about affordable, our research has shown us that some of the ingredients that have now been substituted, in fact, making some of those dishes have become even less expensive to government.
Navigating puberty can be complicated and a little intimidating for young people. But a local pediatrician is stressing the need for parents to talk to their children early about the changes in their body before they start happening. Pediatrician Dr. Gillian Birchwood notes puberty doesn't happen overnight, but over a period of years. Aside from the physical changes in a child, she says there will be emotional changes as well. She weighed in on the topic during the Doctor on Call segment of CBC TV8's Morning Barbados.
You shouldn't abandon them at the time of puberty, and part of that really may be a reflection of how they were brought up, that these things were not discussed much, if at all, in households when parents would have been growing up. So it's really important from long before puberty to, I always put it as decriminalize puberty. In other words, it's a normal process. Don't act as if it's a strange thing and you suddenly start talking to them when you already notice the changes happen. Talk to them about it on a regular basis, just like you talk to them about anything else, and let them know it's a normal process, so that it should not be a mystery to them. And the other part of it is you don't want them getting information from the wrong sources.
Sports time now. Head over to Anne-Marie in the sports studio. Good evening, Anne-Marie.
Good evening, Shane. The experienced umpire Joel Wilson is the lone West Indian official named to stand in the first round and Super 12 stages of the upcoming T20 World Cup after the ICC released the lineup today. The 55-year-old has been an international umpire for over a decade since doing his first one international between the West Indies and India in June of 2011. To date, he has stood in 31 tests, 84 ODIs and 39 T20s. His first match in the upcoming T20 World Cup will be a qualifier between Sri Lanka and Namibia in Geelong, and he will also stand in the highly anticipated clash between Australia and England at the MCG on October 29th. In total, 16 umpires will officiate across the tournament, and is an experienced group of umpires, with the same 16 selected for last year's tournament, which was held in United Arab Emirates and Oman. Now, officials have been named for the entirety of the first round and Super 12s, with the selections for the semi-finals and the final of the tournament to be made in due course.
In tonight's Yes Business Report, the many entrepreneurial pursuits of this island's youth were just some of the areas highlighted during National Youth Week 2022. One of the major events of the week was the Youth and Talent Expo. Ryan Broom has more.
With some changes to the original calendar, the Youth and Talent Expo was the climax of National Youth Week 2022, showcasing a number of businesses that have come through the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme and the Division of Youth. At the start of the event, acting manager of Yes, Ryan Mosley, appealed to members of the public in the mall to support the young business people.
We don't only want you to see them and to talk to them, but we want you to spend that extra disposable income with them. At the end of the day, these are the entrepreneurs who will help to bring us out of the economic hole that we are in. We want you to support the entrepreneurs. Many of them would have benefited from the services of the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, and this is the fruits of the services that they have received. Please give them good feedback on their products. Please engage them, but at the end of the day, please show your support by actually purchasing from them and giving them the financial support.
And in his remarks to kick off the event, Director of Youth Affairs, Cleviston Hunt, underscored the importance of the work being done by the ministry to empower the island's youth.
The work that these young people, they call them resilient young people, because of the fact that they are working, they are piloting their products through what is really an economic storm in Barbados at this current time. And I invite you all to give all of them a round of applause at this time. Now this program is a critical one for the ministry. The National Youth Week celebration is one which we take very seriously because it provides young people with that dedicated space on the calendar where they can show the true talents that young people have and that they are able to demonstrate to all and sundry that they are indeed the future of this country and that they are indeed ready to take over the reins of running this country.
He says they must be commended for their desire to continuously better themselves and sharpen their business skills. He adds, even though we will sometimes hear about the negative behavior of some young people, they represent the minority, as the ministry has discovered that the vast majority of the young people are committed to doing their best to improve themselves, their communities, and making a contribution to help the country grow.
The work of this ministry is geared to developing all the young people within this country, and our officers will have worked extremely hard to put together this expo today. And I want personally to congratulate every single member of staff who will contribute to this event, and we want to assure you that the ministry will continue to do all that we can to promote the interests of young people in this country. And I want to say to you also, all those who are within the hearing of my voice, that the Youth Entrepreneurship Scheme, which lies within the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Community Empowerment, is here to serve you in relation to your business ideas. Any young person who is in the mall, who is hearing me, who have a number of ideas swimming around in your head, you can come to us, and our motto and our mantra is to take your idea to enterprise.
Meanwhile, the expo featured a number of businesses, including some in food and beverage, design, clothing, and personal care and grooming. There was also a special fashion runway event throughout the mall. That runway event featured the designs of 4 young designers in all, and it was coordinated by UNICEF youth advocate Ashley Lashley. For the Yes Business Report, I'm Ryan Broom.
Barbados and Italy are looking to deepen their 45 years of diplomatic relations. This was the focal point of discussions when non-resident ambassador of Italy to Barbados, Fabrizio Nicoletti, paid a courtesy call on Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, Senator Dr. the Most Honorable Jerome Walcott, at the ministry's Culloden Road office. During the meeting, Minister Walcott told Ambassador Nicoletti that Barbados was very appreciative of the assistance provided to the island over the years, especially in the area of climate change and most recently COVID-19. Envoy Nicoletti, who was accompanied by wife Dr. Martina Mahon, acknowledged that issues relating to climate change were just as important to Italy as they were to Barbados and the Caribbean, given his country was also surrounded by the sea. He emphasized that Italy recognized that it needed to be more present in the Caribbean, and one of its goals was to enhance its cooperation and support in helping to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Time for the second half in sports. Now we head back to the sports studio with Amory.
Have some local cricket news. An all-round performance from Matthew Jones and a century by Nicholas Curtin sent Sir Charles Griffith 11 into the final of the Barbados Cricket Legends Cup last night. Playing in the first semi-final at Kensington Oval in a day-night encounter, Sir Charles 11 defeated Sir Wesley Hall 11 by 192 runs. Deciding to bat first, Sir Charles 11 posted 309 for 7 off their 50 overs. Curtin left unbeaten 103 and Jones was left not out on 73. Kemar Smith took 4 for 85. Here's a look at that innings. Winning the toss, Sir Charles Griffith 11 took first knock, and immediately openers Zachary McCaskey and Shakir Paris set to work. That was Paris with the match's first boundary. On the other end, McCaskey got in on the act as well. This one is skied, but just drops into the ropes for 4. Paris on strike again and edges this one to the rope, getting a good foundation going for his team. Here McCaskey goes again. Will this be a maximum? Oh no, it just falls short, but add 4 more to the scoreboard. Then came the breakthrough the West Hall 11 needed. McCaskey goes, caught and bowled by Giovante de Pisa for 22. The score 41 for 1. They also quickly lost the wicket of Paris for 16, and that brought Demetrius Richards and Joshua Dorn to the crease. Richards picking up the boundary fever, wasting no time in getting on the act. A good attempt from the fielder though. It was so good he did it twice, putting some serious back to the ball. Time for Dorn to join the party, and he nicely turns this delivery to just run smoothly into the boundary. Some shots are not pretty, but they are effective. Richards adding another 4 to his name. But then this happened. Kadeem Allen goes into Dorn, who plays the shot, but sends it straight into the opposite stumps, and caught outside the crease is Richards. And with that, Allen appeals. And after some thought, he is given. Run out for 20. Griffith 11 now 71 for 3. A dejected Richards heads back to the pavilion. This put some more fire to Dorn's batting as he timed this one perfectly, extending that total. And let me introduce the real game changer of the team, Nicholas Curtin. This was the beginning of a century-making knock that would lead his team to victory. Curtin was not playing, straight driven, and leaving not one but 2 fielders in shambles. Meanwhile, Dorn continued to add to the runs fest. Yup, another boundary. Dorn goes for it again, 4 more. But his stay at the crease came to an end when he was given LBW to Kemar Smith. 40 runs his contribution, the score 152 for 4. Not long after, the 5th wicket would be claimed. Desmond Currency right into the hands of Nathan Seeley. Smith claims his 2nd wicket, the score now 161 for 5. And before the run to the score or to his name, Ravendra Prasad was sent packing. A nice diving catch by Jaden Edmond, 161 for 6. Made out 173 for 7, as Stefan King also did not last long in the middle, caught by keeper Lenico Boucher after contributing 6 to the score. Griffith 11 needing to really steady their ship. And that's where Matthew Jones' entry at the crease made the difference, announcing his stay with a big one. On the other end, Curtin was pressing on to the century, adding some boundaries in the mix, nicely timed and placed. Meanwhile, Jones was just about the 6s, another power shot. Actually, it wasn't only 6s, 4s too, as between Jones and Curtin, the score was now taken to just in the 300 range. Actually, by the end of the innings, Jones was left not out on 73, with Curtin not out on 103 to set West Hall 11 a target of 310 to win, as the Griffith 11 posted 309 for 7. Now, in reply, West All 11 fell short on 117 all-out in 30.3 overs. Hakeem Perryman was the top scorer. He had an unbeaten 30. Jaden Lord claimed 3 for 25, with Jones, Jaden Leacock, and Stephon King all taking 2 apiece. So Charles's 11th opponent for the final will be decided tomorrow night when Sir Gordon Greenwich 11 faces Sir Garfield Sobers 11 in the second semi-final. That is set for a 1:30 p.m. start at Kensington Oval. And Shane, that's it for sports. Back over to you.
That's our news. Good night and be good. Thanks for visiting us. To get more stories like this one, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.